Good night, good night. You're gonna massage this now. Okay. right, good night, everyone, and those who join now and those who will join after and those who will watch this live after. Good night. It's a pleasure to be here once again, and as you know, these sessions, these discussions are intended to help us in our marriages, relationship. Good night, Pastor Chase. Good night, Kimberly. And so I do always encourage you to share the live so that someone can get it, actually get it, and be able to benefit from what we're going to talk about tonight. So we want to talk about, good night, Stacy. We actually tonight want to talk about toxic positivity, because some people see positivity only from what we will call a positive space, or from a optimistic outlook. But there is such a thing in psychology that they teach us that is called positive toxic positivity. So you can be positive, but if it's not managed in the right way, it can become toxic and offensive and destructive to others, can be to your partner or anyone else. That it can be as a parent, you can have toxic positivity, and as a friend, as a family member. So we want to look at that tonight. What is toxic positivity? And it is simply those persons who believe that you should be positive under all circumstances and not allowed to process your emotion. So if you're grieving, there's some people who expect you to be positive and don't cry and tell you cheer up and everything is going to be all right. Toxic positivity is when we want people all the time to maintain positive mindset, even though they might be hurting and they're grieving and they're trying to communicate that to you, and you're thinking, oh, they're whimpering and they're whining and they're complaining, and they're not the only person who's going through that. That's how toxic positivity. People say things like that. Like, you're not the only person going through that. Like, somebody else is going through worse than that. Like, you are doing too much. And genuinely, a person could be hurting, a person could be grieving, a person could be suffering, and you don't want them to process that emotion. You don't want them to, if they're grieving, you don't want them to be sad. You want them to smile. Or it can be those persons who, like, parents do that too. Like, you beat a child, and then you're asking the child, "Are you crying for joy? Your eyes, shut your mouth." And you expect beating a child should elicit a positive response. Like, they should be positive. You're beating the child, and then you're asking the child, "Why is he crying?" or "Why is she crying?" And shut your mouth. And you expect the child, while you're beating him or her, or you might be speaking something negative to that child or person, and you want them to take it with a smile, and you want them to be laughing. You want them to be optimistic. You don't want them to show like they are being affected by this negative thing that you're doing, or this bad thing that is happening in their life, this experience right now that is so unpleasant. You don't want them to express that it's unpleasant, they're not feeling good, they don't like it. You want them to have a positive outlook all the time. Now, I'm a person who believes in the Bible, and I believe that we must be optimistic and we must have hope and we must have faith. But the Bible also makes room for us to, when we are grieving, when we are hurting. Bible says Jesus is touched with the very feelings of our infirmities. He wants us to, when we are hurting, to express ourselves. And so toxic positivity is when it wants us to suppress our feelings. And oftentimes, the persons who are trying to impose that on us are people who do it to mask their feeling. People with toxic positivity, they use that as a defense mechanism. They want to appear strong. They don't want people to see they're hurting. They don't want people to see, that they're sad. They don't want people to see they're grieving. They want people to think that, oh, they're always positive, that life is always good for them and they're not suffering in any way. Nothing negative is not happening in their life, and they know how to handle everything. And so that can be very much unhealthy for anyone. And so I want us to literally be careful with that in our relationship, because a lot of times partners who don't validate the feelings of their spouse, when you are in a marriage, you are in a committed relationship, and you don't validate the feelings of your spouse, you invalidate their experiences. They're trying to communicate to you what is hurting them. They're trying to communicate to you that something you said that didn't make them feel good, and you are not validating that. You want them to be on top of the world even in those moments, and that is very toxic. It is toxic, and this can cause your partner to shut down. It can cause your partner to withdraw. It causes them to not be honest with their emotions, making you make them feel guilty for feeling sad or feeling hurt, or you make them feel as if they're weak because they might be crying over something that is hurting them that you said or you did or happened in their life. You make them feel ashamed of of their emotions, and that is toxic. It is toxic to hurt somebody and then try to control how they feel about the hurt. It is toxic to say negative things to somebody and tell them how they must feel and want them to impose on them how they must act, how they must respond to that behavior, to your negativity, to your hurt, to the pain you cause them, to the trauma that you have caused them. That is when it becomes toxic, because now you start manipulating that person, and it is harmful to anyone who is in a relationship, who is in a marriage with someone who has that toxic positivity personality. Because when your partner is unable to express themselves to you, you're shutting them down. Like, one of the things about toxic positivity is that your partner, you might do something, your partner, or say something to them, and then they're trying to express themselves, and you say, all right, forget about it. You dismiss them, and you're not listening, and that your partner have no outlet. They're trying to just share, like, this thing makes me feel uncomfortable, this thing I don't appreciate, this what you did, this what you said, this behavior, whatever it is, and you are dismissing them and shutting them down and say, oh, let's forget about it, oh, I don't want to talk about it, all right, let's get it over. And it's toxic. It's very toxic, because when that happens, you are literally killing your partner emotionally. You are literally frustrating your partner mentally, psychologically. And so that person who has a toxic positivity, while they want to appear strong and confident and competent, they're actually weak people. They're actually people who have not addressed their trauma. They don't want to have hard conversations. They don't want to look in the mirror. They don't want the light to be shed on them. So they become dismissive to you. And they want to appear that, oh, I don't want to talk about anything negative. It is okay to talk about negative stuff. Life is about positive and negative. Life is a balance. Everything is not going to always be bright and dandy and lovely in your marriage, in your relationship. But the ability to have discussions and communicate and listen with empathy, and listen not just to respond, but to understand your spouse, understand he or she, their perspective, understand what they're saying to you, and be able to sit with them and say, okay, this is how we're going to work it out, this is how we're going to deal with this matter. And so when people are experiencing that toxic positivity from a spouse, they shut down, anxiety step in, anger, rage disrupt in the relationship, emotional outbursts, they begin to feel drained. You drain your spouse when you are a person who have this personality of toxic positivity. You are the person who wants to appear the strong one. You are the person in the relationship who wants to appear that all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed and nothing bother you, and it's you know, you can handle things. Wow. And there's a dishonesty in toxic positivity. It's dishonest because most times those persons themselves are hurting deep within, but they put on a show. It's a charade. It's an act. It's a lot of dramaturgy. It is not genuine. They can be hurting, but they're pretending they're not hurting. They're grieving, but they want nobody to know they're grieving. They put on this facade. And marriages, healthy relationship is about being genuine. It's the ability to say, this is bothering me. Genuine relationship and healthy relationship, when people can open up, not just the good things, but when they have a safe space and an atmosphere has been created in the marriage, in the relationship, to share the deep things, to share the uncomfortable things, to share the things that sometimes might make you feel a bit bad as a spouse, how you are showing up, or, you know, it might make you look that way. But when you sit with your partner with empathy and compassion, and you allow them to express themselves, and then you take accountability and responsibility for what you did, what you said, what you didn't do, whatever it is, and you sit with them and you take accountability, and then y'all make a commitment and you have a plan how you're going to address it, and that, you know, you're going to do better. That's how marriages go. That's how relationship grows. That's how you develop and you flourish, and there is peace in your home, and there's an atmosphere of calm. When there's toxic positivity in a marriage, in a relationship, it's tension. It's always tense. It drives fear in the other spouse, because the one who wants to appear positive all the time, the one who wants to appear on top of the world all the time, the partner that wants to appear that they have it all together and nothing is bothering them, the other spouse is very tense and anxious and don't know how to approach you because you cannot identify with them. And in your marriage, in your relationship, you always want your spouse to feel safe coming to you. When there's toxic positivity and your spouse feel as though you can't relate to them, you can't relate to what they're saying, you're not showing empathy, you're not putting yourself in their place and trying to understand why they feel that way and why what you did affected them, and to address it. Your partner, sometimes partners turn to other people. They talk to the wrong person, because we all are humans and we all can only take in so much. It's like a computer system. A computer we download and then we retrieve, but we also delete. The reason why we delete the junk files is because we don't want that computer system to crash. So there's a capacity in your husband, in your wife. Each of us have a capacity humanly of what we can bear mentally, psychologically, emotionally. And if there is not a safe space in the marriage, in that relationship, for that person to offload, to release themselves to their spouse, then I can guarantee you that they will find somebody else. That somebody else can be a counselor, and that's good if you talk to a counselor, a qualified counselor. They can talk to maybe a pastor, your whoever's your leader. They might talk to a parent. But in some cases, when there is this toxic positivity that is consistent and it's left unaddressed and unattended, that spouse that feel that they have to suppress their feelings, that they can't express their emotions to you, that they can't open up to you, they turn sometimes to a third party. That third party sometimes turn into an affair if they turn to somebody that they start building. So I want to say to you is that in your marriage, it doesn't matter how strong you are in your marriage, in your relationship, is that you ought to also cater for your spouse, cater for your husband, cater for your wife, cater for their strength, cater for what they cannot handle that you can handle, and give them room to express themselves. Give your partner space. Allow them the atmosphere, the environment of safety to express their heart without feeling that they're going to be attacked, without feelings of humiliation, without feeling disrespected, dishonored, without reducing their sense of value and worth in the marriage, in the relationship. So toxic positivity is when you deny the pain that your partner is feeling. Good night, my sister. Welcome, Sister Roxanne Wall. So toxic positivity is when you deny your partner's pain. So you did something and your partner is expressing the pain that they're feeling, and you're trying to tell them, oh, they're doing too much. Oh, it's not that bad. You're trying to minimize the effect of what you did. So you deny that they're hurting that much. Toxic positivity is when you create emotional pressure on your spouse. The pressure to be silent in the face of their pains, in the face of their distress. You're pressuring them to say nothing, to don't express themselves. You don't want them to talk with you about it. You continually avoid having the conversations that they want to have to address that thing, because you know that you're going to show up in a negative light. You know that you will have to take accountability. You know that you were wrong. But because you have this toxic positivity, you want to appear like, oh, that don't matter, man. Let's get over it. And you're so dismissive. And there are a lot of people in their relationships that are hurted. So you create an emotional pressure and you want them to suppress that. And you want them, doesn't matter what pain and hurt and sorrow and grief they're feeling, that they must be happy. They must be on top of the world. They are crashing. And you want them to be happy. You are saying negative things to them, and then you're saying, why you got your face like that? If you are telling me something negative, you want me to smile. Oh, but is it true to telling you? Yes, it might be the truth you're telling your spouse. But then the way you're telling them can make them feel so less of themselves. And they find that in you, they find no compassion in those moments, right? So it is better when your partner is expressing themselves, if you want to avoid being in this personality of toxic positivity. You want to acknowledge the reality of your spouse. If they're hurting, you can say something like, I understand. I can understand why you're hurting. Even if you don't understand, you can say, I can understand. I can understand your pain. You might never felt the same pain, but because you're human, you can understand that what they're saying, the pain they're feeling, you can understand. You simple things like that. You can also, rather than telling them don't cry, we're crying for, it's not the end of the world, you can say something like, I really see that you're hurting. I really see that this thing is bothering you. These are simple ways, beloved, that we can communicate and make our spouses feel loved, valued, cared for. So you don't shut them down. You want them to know that their feelings are valid, that it's okay as human. It's human to cry. It's human when you're hurting sometimes to turn up your face. Somebody might turn up their eyes. Somebody might shake their head. They might not want to smile in that moment. That is okay. Don't try to make a robot out of your spouse. Understand that your spouse have feelings. Understand when they are communicating to you their feelings. Try to put yourself in their place. It is always good. Right? So you don't tell people, like we do this at funerals, and I know we don't we don't mean anything bad about it. But somebody's spouse die, mother die, brother die, sister die, and you're there telling them, don't cry. That can be a form of toxic positivity, even when you don't identify it. They just lost a loved one. Don't cry, don't cry. And I know we don't even understand. Our intent is not. But in that moment, you're telling the person that it's not okay to be human and weep and be sorrowful and grieve. So we have a culture here in Guyana of toxic positivity, in the sense that when people are having bad experiences, we want them to put on a persona as if everything is all right. And that's why marriages fail, because we have people suppressing themselves. We have people hurting, and they have to act as though they're not hurting. That's why people turn to drugs. Some of them start smoking. Some of them start drinking. They become addicts because we're not allowing people to process their emotions. And I don't care how saved you are, how much of a believer you are. And yes, we have the Holy Spirit, but we are human. And we are allowed to process our emotions. And part of processing in your emotions is the ability to cry when the need arises. Part of processing your emotion, it is the ability to say, this doesn't feel good, I don't like this makes me uncomfortable, please do not say that to me. All of that. But we don't want to have these conversations, because if it is the mother be the child, and when the mother be the child and the child is crying, you're asking the child, what are you crying for? What are you crying for? I will really give you something for cry, but you just slap that child. Toxic positivity. So we beat the child, and when somebody is hurt, it's human. If you're hurting, one of the things you do is cry. But we're saying, what are you crying for? Toxic. And we need to start changing that culture. So it is better and healthier to acknowledge the reality that that person might be hurting. It is also good to tell them that it's okay, even when they're angry. Because this is another thing. We feel that people should not get angry. I didn't say that for you to get angry. You don't hurt my feelings and then tell me how to respond to it. So if somebody gets angry, the Bible even make allowances for anger. Because the Word of God says, be angry. What it says is, say not. So when somebody gets angry, we should not get annoyed if something happened or we did something. If you're a husband, you did something, said something, or you didn't do something that you were supposed to do, and it creates anger in your spouse as a husband or as a wife. You should allow your spouse the room of anger. What that spouse have to is to manage the anger, that it doesn't reach to a place where they transgress against you, where they abuse you and all of that. But anger is okay. And anger in a moment might be to walk out of the room. And in that moment, we don't like when sometimes you're having a discussion and somebody walk out. But sometimes walking out is a way of venting your anger, and for some people it's a way of walking out of the environment for a time, not forever, but to calm themselves, to breathe a breath of fresh air, to think, to release the negative, the toxic, and all that is coming out, and then come back and better able to handle and talk and communicate in a better manner, right? So I want to tell us tonight that to combat toxic positivity, you must understand, we have to understand why people do what they do. And for those persons who have this toxic positivity, it's people who use it as a coping mechanism. As I said, they're very defensive, right? And they want to avoid uncomfortable emotions. They want to avoid. They also, people with this personality that is toxic positivity, they like being in control. That's a way of being in control, to feel that they're the master of everything. Like I got that under control. That don't bother me. Like, no, right? And they do it also as a way to protect themselves from the pain, right? So if you're dealing with somebody like that, know that that's one of the reasons. Those are some of the reasons. And now, if your partner, if your husband or your wife have that toxic positivity, they need help, they need counseling. So I know when we see that, we see them as being insensitive and uncaring. It's not necessarily all the time that they're uncaring, but they have to learn. That person will have to learn. That's why they would need counseling, how to process their emotion and deal with difficult circumstances, right? So don't attack. They said you don't attack them, but you invite awareness. You make them aware, right? And don't say you're being toxic, because I know that's the easiest way to put it, right? We try to say you're a very toxic man, or you're a very toxic woman, which yes, it is toxic. But when a person is displaying toxic positivity, if you say to them that you're toxic, it will be more triggering. So the better thing to say, or you can say, I know you're trying to help, but just give me a space. Give me some space to process what I'm dealing with. Do not tell them they're toxic. That can trigger them even more. And so you don't want to, we say that a lot. You're toxic, you're toxic. And for that person, it's an attack. You don't mean to attack them. You were just highlighting what you're seeing. But in marriages, in healthy relationships, it is not just about speaking truth. It's how we communicate truth in such a way that our partner, our spouse, our husband, our wife does not feel embarrassed, disrespected, humiliated in the process. So rather than saying you're toxic, you can just tell them, I know you're genuinely trying to help me in this moment, but could you just give me some time to sit by myself and just address this and process what I'm feeling in that moment. So you're not dismissing them, you're not attacking them, but now it's like you are asking them permission. So it still makes them feel valued in the process, right? So you don't the name calling and negative labeling when you're dealing with people with that kind of personality is not good. So you want to model healthy emotional expression. They might tell you, they might tell you like, oh, you're not handling this matter the right way. You're not addressing it. You're not dealing with it. Like in my grief process of losing my late husband, there are people who meant well, and the people would tell me things like, I know you should stop grieving. How long you gonna be grieving? You gotta get over this man. And I guess because of my social work and doing psychology background, I understand what they mean, even though it sounds harsh. Like for somebody that doesn't have my knowledge and my experience, that can be very offensive when you're telling them you should get over the grief. It's 2 years now. Why are you still grieving? You got it. No. that's not the best way to say it, even when you mean well. Because grief, I just want to say this to any person who have gone through grief, especially when you lose a spouse and that spouse was suddenly take from you. You had no warning signs of loss, or it can be a family member and people are telling you that, oh, you should stop grieving by now. Like, for me, in that moment, while it was an insensitive thing for the person to say, I knew that they meant well. And I want to say that the Bible says that there's a time for everything, right? Time to grieve. But I've never seen in the scripture that gave me a timeline to my grief. However, with the wisdom of God and the help of the Holy Spirit and my faith in the Lord, I know that I cannot allow grief to consume me to the point that it disrupt and destroy my life and my future and all of that. But if you're dealing with somebody that is grieving, and it might not be the death of someone, it's a loss of a job, you know, something happened, they suffer some loss, they're going through a divorce, and that divorce for them was a severe loss because they didn't want to divorce. Maybe the other spouse wanted. Whatever, you have to just be careful. What we have to do is be careful how we are framing our words. So rather than tell them it's time, you should stop grieving, you can say to them something like, you have been going through this a long time, and I trust that you find the strength to overcome it. That's a better way. You're telling them they need to overcome, but then you're not telling them it in a way that, oh, you're imposing and telling them now's the time to stop doing it. You understand? And so even in our relationship, a lot of times people say, I am saying the truth. But it's how you communicate truth. Because you can communicate truth in a way that is so offensive and destructive to your spouse, even though it's the truth. And not because it's the truth. You would use the truth as a weapon. Because in your relationship, you want to use truth to heal. You want to use truth, not to destroy the person, but to build them up. You want to use truth to become a savior and a sustainer of that person's well-being mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And how you communicate truth as in your relationship is very important. So you try not to be fixing your partner's life, fixing that person. You want to encourage validation. So people with toxic positivity, who want to remain positive no matter what, they are fixers, and they try to fix your feelings. Instead of acknowledging your feelings, they try to fix it, right? So rather than saying to the person, get over the feelings, it's time you stop crying, you can just let them know, I'm here for you. If you ever need someone to talk, like simple things like that, I'm here for you. I heard what you said. That really sounds tough and a lot for you to deal with, but I'm here if you ever need me. You want to let them know, do you want to talk about it? You offer validation. You're not shutting them down. You're not forcing them to suppress their true feelings, but you're creating the room for them to release themselves. Because when people start sharing things that are bothering them, even though sometimes they might share it with somebody, they don't even know what to say, how to really help them. Just sharing is a part of releasing. Just having somebody there that will listen to them. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. Sometimes when they tell you that, you might just need to give them a hug, you know, or a calm reassurance with a tap on the shoulder. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you and I'm trusting that everything's going to be all right. So relationships are being affected by toxic positivity because persons who want to maintain an atmosphere that everything is okay and nothing is wrong, and the other partner is hurting and they're feeling the pains of the negativity, and this other person wants or chooses to be in denial, can kill your relationship with your help. You are killing it. And you don't realize, right? So you're not to fix your partner's feelings and tell them how to feel, but you encourage and validate those feelings when they express, right? The other thing is that you want to set clear boundaries with those persons. Just you ask them for time to process. Give me some time. I need a timeout because I am hurting and you are here telling me I shouldn't hurt. I just need a timeout. I need 2 hours. I need to breathe. I need to go take a walk. I need to go read my Bible. I might need to go pray. I might just need to go in my room and be silent, undisturbed, do not disturb mode. And all of these things are healthy. Because we feel as though it's not healthy if somebody don't want to talk for a while. If somebody asks for a little space, and I'm not talking about space where you move out of the house and having no contact with your partner and all of that. But boundaries are important. You understand? Thank you, Caroline. Yes. And so toxic positivity where a spouse continually wants to be in the dominant one, they don't want you to talk about the negatives, only the positives, only the highlights. They feel as though if talking about the things that are bothering you is weakness. Let me say this. It takes strength under control to sit and discuss the uncomfortable things in your relationship. Those are relationships that thrive when you can talk about not just the likes, but the dislikes. When you can talk about what pleases you and what displeases you. The uncomfortable and hard conversations. So, we want to communicate in a way that our partner feels heard and safe. Okay? Be patient with your spouse when they're expressing themselves. And if it has anything to do with you, you need to be patient. You need to not to tell your spouse that, all right, you don't tell me this and I won't hear it again. No, you don't do that. So you be patient. And also we need to know that change takes time. So you have to give your partner time to grow, right? You want to help the person that have this toxic positivity. And so what you want to do is shift them from that place to a place of understanding that life is balanced. Life is balanced. The scale is not always up. There's sometimes the scale is down. And that is part of life. And you want to accept that there are going to be moments when we're up here, and there are going to be moments when we might be down here. But that doesn't mean that we're not growing. What we need to learn is how to regulate our emotions. So it is okay to be positive, but it's also okay to be real. Because some people want to be so positive that they live in denial and don't want to confront or face reality. The positivity is saying God will provide for us to pay the mortgage. Reality is acknowledging that we are 2 months behind on our mortgage payment. So the person that is saying, the spouse that is saying, boy, we're 2 months behind. And the husband that is saying, girl, God is going to provide. Both are good. But not because you're positive by saying God will provide. That does not nullify the fact that you're 2 months behind on payment. So these are things like people who have toxic positivity, they only want you there to be on this positive high, that they refuse to face reality. And the other person wants you to face reality, because the reality is saying, okay, we're 2 months behind. And what can we do to address this? What action plan we need? Do we need to borrow from somebody? Is there something that we can invest in to pay this? Whatever. So the reality is what will cause you now to come up with solutions. So don't be the kind of person that you're so positive that you don't want to embrace the reality of what is happening in your relationship, in your marriage. Yes, you want to talk positive. You want to have, a positive outlook, a positive mindset. But you also want to face the reality that there is an issue, and that issue needs to be addressed. And if it's left unaddressed, matters can get worse. And these are the things in marriages that cause the ripping, the tearing apart, the severing, slowly at a time, little at a time. And I tell you, it's like the little tear that when left, the older folks will tell you a stitch in time save 9. If you get a little tear on the skirt, then you stitch it up right away. And if you don't stitch that little tear up, it will widen and get bigger. And it's the same thing in our relationship when we're having issues and challenges, and we're not addressing it and being real that this little thing that is happening, if we continue to leave it, those partners who like to sweep it under the rug, those partners who like to say, forget about it, I won't talk about it, all right, let me done, and we just dismiss it and throw it aside, it's gonna come back. Unaddressed issues will haunt you. Unresolved issues will destroy your peace. Unresolved matters in your marriage will separate you. It will create tension. It will create anxiety. It can create resentment. It can create bitterness, and the list goes on and on. And so if you are dealing with a spouse, I want you to read up on toxic positivity and look at ways how you guys can get help, because some people with toxic positivity don't live in the reality of what is happening. They create a mindset of their own to cope, to lessen the pain for them, to make themselves feel safe and not under pressure. And they refuse to accept while the other spouse is living in reality. They are in la la land. They are somewhere else, and the other spouse is there fighting and trying to get you to see like, oh, this is really happening to us. The things are not working out. And we need to stop this. We need to address whatever it is. So read up on toxic positivity, because I know that it leads to bitterness. It leads to burnt out. The spouse who is having to deal with the blunt of it, that person gets weary, because you are not listening to them. You're not hearing them. They're crying. They are there in front of you hurting, and you are in a total different space. And then you say, oh, she is negative. Oh, yeah. Or no, that person is real. That person is real. So it's important that toxic positivity is people who see you as weak, right? And those persons who have toxic positivity, they think strength is pretending. Pretending they see that as strength. Pretending that there is not a problem. pretending that they're not hurting, and they call that strength. Those are people who are living a lie in their marriages, in their relationship, pretending they're strong. And so when they are in this pretense mode to make themselves feel strong and look strong and all of that, they disconnect from the reality. What they don't know, that strength is the ability to process even the negative things and find the positive way to deal with it. There is strength in processing. There is strength in communicating. There is strength in saying that I can't, I don't feel like I can do it. That's strength to say that. Because when you say I don't feel I can do it, people know how to help you. Rather than, no, it's not bothering. It is strength to say it's bothering me. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. That is strength, right? Not pretense, right? Strength is standing and facing the truth even when it is uncomfortable. That is strength. And so those persons who have this toxic positivity personality, they don't want to face that. They live to impress people. They live to have an image that does not even exist. They deny the reality even when it's staring them in the face. So if you find yourself either dealing with a person like that, or you're a person like that, you got to get help. Help is needed. Go get professional counseling. Read up on it. Whatever you got to do, don't stay there. It's going to destroy your relationship. No relationship is 100. No relationship is without its negatives. But we use our negatives to help us to. So stop people, stop living a lie. Yes, stop living this lie. If you need help, go get help. Say you need help. That's life. None of us are ever going to be everything at one time. If the capacity of this bottle of water, if it's to carry 20 ounces or 16 ounces of water, when it reaches 16 ounces, you can't pour anything more into it, because that's its carrying capacity. And for those persons who have this disorder and your partner's reach his or her carrying capacity, if this bottle is filled and I keep pouring water into it, it's going to overflow and it's going to create a mess. It's going to wet everything around me. Because if it's reached its capacity and I keep pouring into it, it will overflow. It will spill on the things around me. It will wet the carpet and the papers and the books, and it can create damage. It is the same thing in our marriages. That when we are constantly negative and attacking and fighting and not listening to our spouse and not trying to understand and not addressing the issues that are bothering them, not facing the reality of what you're dealing with, when that person reached their capacity and you're still trying to pour and to add, it is going to create problems. It is going to have a spill off. It can be damaging. It can be devastating. And you don't want to do that. So I want to urge us tonight, pay attention to ourselves. Pay attention to how we have been responding to our spouses, how we have been relating. Are we listening? Is there active listening? Are we hearing our spouse? Are we validating them? Good night, Raquel. Are we giving them room to feel safe with us? Are we dismissive of their feelings, of their thoughts, of their opinions? Are we in a place where we show care, and are we willing to make changes and adjustments? You do not want to, you can't be in relationship and don't want to make adjustments. It's not going to work. It is not going to work. So I trust that you value your marriage. I trust that you value yourself. I trust that you value your spouse. And you are going to be one who is making changes and stop the toxic positivity if it exists. So read up on that toxic positivity, what it's like, how it can affect others, what it does to the other person, and how you can combat it, how you can overcome it. I trust that this discussion tonight would have struck something in you that will cause you to do some introspection and begin healing if you find the need to be healed in one area or another. So until then, be good, be safe. Until next week, thank you all for joining me. Share this live and let somebody get the information. We're changing lives and families and marriages one discussion at a time. Until next week, I'm Pastor Natasha Taylor. Good night.